quick at verse, I'll go 15 through 18. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. 16. And fell on his face at Jesus' feet, giving him thanks. Now he was a Samaritan. 17, which is more of our focus today. Then Jesus answered. Somebody says, Jesus answered.
Jesus answered.
Were not 10 cleansed? Second question. Where are the 9? Third question. Was no one found to return and give praise to God except his Father? And he said to him, rise and go your way, your faith has made you well. Now there are 3 questions that Jesus proposed here. He says, listen, were there not 10? Were there not 10 individuals whose lives were changed? Then the next question he asked, where are the 9? And then the third question he asked, is this the only one that came back to give God his due glory? Now, what do these questions mean to you and I today? Jesus is constantly proposing questions to you and I. And I'll tell you, they're not rhetorical. Jesus doesn't do the rhetorical thing. He's not asking you a question because he knows you have the answer. He's asking you a question to prick your heart. He's asking you a question to develop your mind. He's asking you a question to galvanize your spirit. He's asking you a question to give you revelation, not to give him insight. And so there's a question that Jesus is proposing upon your life. There's a question that Jesus is asking you in your life. And the question that he asked me may not be the question that he asked you. But that is a question that God has for you at City of Faith Church. If you are a member of City of Faith Church, that is a question that God has for you. Now, the way he asks the question oftentimes will be in a way of what gets your attention. There are some things around here that just don't bother me. But there are some things that bother you. There are some people that may not be here that don't bother me. But there may be some people that are not here that might bother me. There are some people that I may decide to go out and reach that you might not decide to go out and reach. But that is a question that God has for you today about his church. That's a question. His church cannot go forward unless a question is stated and a question is answered by you and I. Over there in 6th chapter of Isaiah, God said, well, this is what I decide to do. This is what I'm going to do in the earth. And then God asked a question. Over there somewhere around the 7th verse, he said, who can I send to do this for me? As if God had no earthly idea or heavenly possibility of who might go. And he just got a free question out there in such a way that Isaiah heard. And then Isaiah spoke up and he said, can you send me? That is a question that God has for you, Max. That's a question. So he keeps pressing you this way. He keeps bringing you this way because that is a dialogue he's having with you. Brandon, that is a question that only you can answer. And all of my studying and all of my writing and all of my research, my answer will not come up right. It'll be as if I have laryngitis before God and he has nothing I have to say because the question is for you. There's a question for you, Jason. There's a question for you, Tommy. There's a question for you, Jacane. There's a question for you, Steve and Kara, on around the room. There's a question for you in your home. There's a question if you're a wife. There's a question God has for you. If you're a husband, there's a question. If you've been dating for a little while, I guarantee you there's a question God has for you. There's a question. But the only person who can answer that question in the whole wide world, go all the way down to the bottom of the deep blue sea, go to the highest mountains, and there's only one person in the world who can answer that question. And that person is you. What's your question? And so on this day, he asked 3 questions to these 3 individuals who've had an amazing life turnaround. 3 questions. Surely they deserve his time. Surely they deserve giving him an answer. Why? Because he had been good to them. See, that's what the question is about. The question is on the backside of grace. The question comes on the backside of how good I've been to you. And so God, these individuals had leprosy, and just to recap a little bit, leprosy was a horrible condition of the skin, but it wasn't simply a change in pigmentation and things of that nature. It was a disfiguring of your entire being. And leprosy was not something that would change you from this way to that way within an instant. It was a slow process of going in the wrong direction. It was a slow pain. It was a slow death. And this leprosy-like condition, which was rooted in issues in the blood, it would deform your body. Your hands would drop off as nubs. And there would become huge craters all throughout your skin and all throughout your body. And it was a highly contagious condition. But not only was it highly contagious, it was the type of condition that everybody knew your business and everybody would talk about your business. Has anybody ever had anybody talk about them? Has anybody had anybody put their business all on Front Street, as they like to say? Has anybody pleaded and talked about your demise or your fall? Here you are, you're going through a horrible time, a bad moment in life, you're trying to pick yourself up, and all they want to do is remind you of what happened yesterday. They want to remind you about your mistake and things like that. And so these people had leprosy, and they were resigned to a leprosy type colony where they had to live away from civilization. They could see all the other people having all the fun, all the wonderful things in life, and here they are relegated to each other in this horrible condition of misery. I want you to know today that God is raising individuals up from the bottom. God is raising individuals from the bottom to the top. Over there in Deuteronomy 28, that's what he said. He said, I'll make you the head